For the dumbbell goblet squat, I like to set my dumbbell on something so that I can unrack it a little bit safer. I'm not pulling from the floor, especially if it's a heavy dumbbell and you're loading up that dumbbell goblet squat pretty heavy. You want to have it so that you're pulling from something a little bit higher off the floor. When you get into your position for the goblet squat, you want to make sure that that dumbbell is close to your body and the elbows are tucked in. A lot of people flare those elbows out. Sorry if I'm bumping that microphone. A lot of people let those elbows drift out and you get a lot of strain in the elbows and the wrists. So let those elbows sit underneath the wrists. When you go into the dumbbell goblet squat too, I oftentimes see a lot of chest collapse. That is actually the opposite of what we want. We want to maintain a fairly upright chest position in this squat variation. That's actually why the dumbbell is there, is to emphasize keeping that torso upright and really focus on just driving the hip down to the floor and let the knees go over the toes. The feet, super important that those feet are about hip bone or hip width apart. You don't want them too wide. You also don't want them crazy narrow. And those toes, you can have them slightly externally rotated, so rotated out, but you want the feet to be fairly straight, those toes to be pretty straight. And when your elbows are in the position, the dumbbell goblet squat is loaded up properly. You're really focused on keeping that chest upright, driving the knees over the toes and lowering into that dumbbell variation. I'm letting my knees go over my toes and notice my chest is staying upright the whole time whenever I'm going into this position before coming back up. If it's really hard to get access to going low in that squat and driving those knees over toes, you can use a wedge, squat wedges, to help you get into position. I don't have my feet all the way up on this wedge. I have the balls of my feet off the wedge, the rest of my foot on the wedge. I get that dumbbell loaded up into position. And then it's a lot easier for me, notice, to keep my chest upright and to drive my knees over the toes, because what happens is with those wedges up, I naturally am pushing forward, so it's easier for me to let my hips drop backward and drive those knees over the toes. And that's essentially the dumbbell goblet squat.